Welcome to the June 17th, 2019 Frankfort Village Board meeting. We call this meeting to order, and we ask our village administrator, Rob Pisha, to take the roll, please.
Mayor Holland.
Here.
Trustee Farina.
Here.
Trustee Ogle.
Here.
Trustee Petro.
Here.
Trustee Trevarthen.
Here.
Trustee Borelli and Trustee Clavio are absent. Attorney Mahoney.
Here.
Attorney Lamore.
Present. Police
Chief Arica.
Present.
Assistant Administrator Cook.
Here.
And the village administrator is present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, how nice. The next item on our agenda is titled Appointment of Village Clerk, Swearing-In Ceremony. So it was back in April that our clerk, Adam Borelli, was elected to the position of trustee in the village of Frankfort. And in early May, he took the oath of office and became a trustee. On April 30th, he officially resigned his position as clerk. And in Illinois, state law provides that when there is a vacancy in an elected position, the mayor must, within 60 days, bring a name to the trustees with their advice and seek their consent. So tonight, we're going to seek the consent of the trustees to approve Eugene Savaria as an appointment to the office of village clerk in the village of Frankfort. And I would entertain such a motion.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by trustee Farina and a second by trustee Ogle. Any discussion? Well, that's good to hear. We'll go to our village administrator, Rob Pisha, for the vote.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Trustee Petro.
Yes.
Trustee Trevarthen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, then the only thing that remains is to swear in Gene Savarian. Is here with his family this evening, and all of you can come forward up to the podium with me if you like, or just Gene can come up. But I'm going to meet you right there. Gene is familiar with our community. He serves on our plan commission right now. Interestingly, I haven't asked the legal authorities here if the position of clerk and the position of plan commissioner are incompatible, but I suspect they probably aren't. But we're going to have a new plan commissioner anyway, so we think that's the right thing to do in our community. We people who are closely connected to the village in one way or another. I think it's a good idea that we have other people on the Plan Commission. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, he still is on the Plan Commission. So can I swear him in?
Yes.
There we go. We got a legal answer. That was easy enough. Good thing we checked on that. So, Gene, congratulations. Like I say, you've been on the Plan Commission. You've been around our community. You know it well. The clerk is somebody who keeps the records of the village. The clerk is someone who makes sure that what we record and what we do with our paperwork reflects what actually happened here. That's important. The clerk also verifies my signature on a lot of documents, verifies that it was actually passed by the village board, verifies that people who have applications before the village have proper documents that they can get. It's important to understand FOIA rules and Open Meetings Act rules and such, and help us follow all of those. So with that, we're going to swear you into office. So, would you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Eugene Savaria, having been appointed to the office of village clerk
Having been appointed to the office of village clerk
in the village of Frankfort,
Will and Cook counties,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of
the duties of
Clerk of the Village of Frankfort.
Clerk of the Village of Frankfort.
Congratulations, you're in.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we had a motion, we had a vote, and a swearing in. We're all set. You're in charge of the record from now on, Gene. So the next item on our agenda is what we call the unanimous consent agenda. All items on the unanimous consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be voted on after a single motion. If any of the trustees want to discuss any of the items on the consent agenda in more detail, we'll just remove that item from the consent agenda. So I first ask, do any trustees want to remove any items from the consent agenda? Not hearing any, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by trustee Trevarthen and a second by trustee Ogle. We do want the audience here in the boardroom to know something about the items that we're passing on the consent agenda, and of course we want the audience at home on the internet and on the television to know something about these items too. So we'll go over each one of them just briefly. The first item is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting on June 3rd. The second item is the approval of the bills, and we'll go to trustee Farina for a report on those.
Thank you, Mayor Holland. This month's bills totaled $1,470,529.62. Some key items were for $43,000 to Clark Mosquito for spraying our community. Another item was $161,000 for Central Railroad, which had to do with the Pfeiffer Road bike path. And finally, another large item was $78,000 for the regional plant holding tank. And that's the report, Mayor Holland.
Thank you, Margaret. And then we have several items from our Land Use and Policy Committee, and we'll go to trustee Ogle for a report on those.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of these items on here are some cleanup items. We're cleaning up some of the ordinances. There's some, the very first one on here is related to the tree board, and the proposed amendment will permit non-resident employees of the village to be appointed to the tree board. We have several certified arborists that are employed here, and so to take advantage of the knowledge base, we've expanded this. The other one on here is changing some of the wording of our Departmental Operations Committee. We're going to strike the departmental part, as well as the Historic Preservation Commission will now be what will be replacing the 1890s Theme Committee. So the two motions are actually to accept the recommendation of the Land Use and Policy Committee and waive the first and second readings. And we're going to pass an ordinance amending the Village of Frankfort Code of Ordinances, Chapter 158, Section 158.45A, to allow non-resident employees to be appointed to the tree board. And our second motion is accept the recommendation of the Land Use and Policy Committee, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance amending the Village of Frankfort Code of Ordinances, Chapter 32, Section 32.075 on advisory committees. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And we have 4 items from our Operations Committee. We'll go to trustee Trevarthen for a report on those.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is we're going to replace a squad car, and we're going out of the norm. We're going to have a hybrid squad car. Ford Motor Company has done a lot of research, a lot of work, and it's proven to me and committee that we should try a hybrid. You know, it's $3,000 a year saving in fuel, and all the lights and electricity can keep going. You can shut the motor off. At times, you don't have to let it idle forever. So everything looks good, so we decided that to replace another old car, we would try a hybrid. And I'm trusting old Ford has done a lot of good research work, and it should be a good buy for us. So That is the first thing on my item, and it's $45,442. Second item I have is disposal of a couple of vehicles. One is an old Ford Interceptor, and the other one is an old car that's been passed down to the building department. And both cars are both considered scraps and ready to go to the auction. We send them off to the auction, which is something to do with the Will County Government League. And I think it's a good place for them to go. The third item is a leaf collector purchase approval. We had to, due to the theft of an old machine, we had to speed up the budget process here and budget a new leaf collector, which we desperately need in the fall. So we're going to purchase one of these from Standard Equipment Company for $44,623. And leaves has become quite a job in this village with the rain and the snow and everything that happens to them. And what a lot of people don't know, they have to get these trucks ready for snow plowing. So it gets to be a little bit of a hassle, but they always manage to get done and give us good service. So we're going to purchase this new leaf machine. I don't know if I mentioned the price of it, did I? $44,623. The last item I have on here is a lease agreement down here with, it's called 35 and 40 Nebraska Street. It's actually a parking lot in back of Fat Rosie's and Francesca's. The village owns the parking lot. We designed and built a trash container compartment there. And we have a lease now that we're going to put out forth with the owners of Fat Rosie and Francesca's Restaurant. It's a standard lease about do's and don'ts and expels out all liabilities and gives the village $600 a year to maintain the disposal, which we built this garbage disposal on our parking lot. It gives them ingress and egress to pick up garbage out of that container. And these containers always need service. The doors get knocked off of them. Bus boys come out at 1 o'clock in the morning and throw junk in them, and all kinds of things happen to these containers. But anyway, the village has got a good solid lease with who's responsible for what with them and the village. When you start reading leases, you get into reason leasee and leaseor, and then you go back and say, well, who's the leaseor and who's the leasee? And back and forth. Anyway it goes, there's enough of that. So we're going to have a lease with them for the use of this garbage collector. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dick. And then we have one final item. It's a state requirement, and it has to do with the Prevailing Wage Act. And we'll go to Trustee Ogle for a report on that.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor said, this is a state requirement. Municipal government has to pass this, and it is the Illinois Prevailing Wage Act. The act requires contractors to pay laborers, workers, and mechanics performing services on public work projects no less than the prevailing rate of wages in the county where the work is performed. And these wage classifications and rates that are contained in the resolution are published by the Illinois Department of Labor for Will County. So our motion will be to adopt a resolution ascertaining the Illinois Department of Labor's prevailing rate of wages for the Village of Frankfort, Will, and Cook counties in Illinois. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And those are all of the items on the consent agenda this evening. And before we vote on those items, is there anyone in the audience who wanted to comment about any of those items to the village board? Then, any comments or questions from the trustees?
Mayor Allen, I have a comment.
Please.
I just want to acknowledge the village with moving forward with purchasing a hybrid vehicle. This would be the first in our fleet. I think it's the right move for a green initiative and supporting that in the future. So kudos to the police department for bringing that forth, and hopefully we can see more in your department as well as public works or utilities in the future.
You don't pull the prevailing wage rate off the consent agenda?
Oh, we didn't.
You did?
We did not.
Yeah, you should, shouldn't you? vote for it
If
separately.
somebody wants to vote differently, is that what we're saying? George, I probably have to come back to you for some advice. Do we need a new motion, taking that off the consent agenda?
Exactly, we'll need a motion to take the prevailing wage issue off the consent agenda and have it as the item 4A on the agenda. So it would come off, and then it would be voted on independently by the board on an nay basis.
And that should be done with a motion, then?
It should be done with a motion to remove it.
Fine. I'll entertain a motion to remove the Prevailing Wage Act from the consent agenda.
I'll second
Oh, we need a motion first.
it. Oh, I
We have a
see.
motion from Farina and a second from Trevarthen.
Okay.
And we'll go to our new clerk for the vote.
Trustee Farina?
We're voting on removing the Prevailing Wage Act resolution from the consent agenda.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Petro? Yes. Trustee Trevarthen?
Yes.
There we go. Now it's removed, and now we're back to the consent agenda, everything that we had talked about before, except the Prevailing Wage Act. Any more comments? Then we'll go to our clerk for the vote on approving the consent agenda.
Trustee Farina?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Petro?
Yes.
Trustee Trevarthen?
Yes.
So now we'll go to the Prevailing Wage Act resolution, and we'll go back to Trustee Ogle to get that motion on the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Okay, so I will make the motion then to adopt a resolution ascertaining the Illinois Department of Labor's prevailing rate of wages for the Village of Frankfort, Will, and Cook counties in Illinois.
We have a motion by Trustee Ogle and a second by Trustee Petro. Now, any discussion on this issue? Mr. Trevarthen?
Oh, no, I just followed up the same thing every year. I just feel that the right to work law and the right to charge your wages, the right to have different companies should be allowed to do work for people and not have to have union-controlled work on all jobs. And some villages and towns cannot afford a lot of work and spend that kind of money and should be allowed to adopt a different type of labor rate pay scale to do certain jobs for their village. And so the Prevailing Wage Act seems to control the whole, supposed to control the whole state. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Dick. Any other comments before we vote?
I would just want to make the comment that this is not generated or something that we can even control at the municipal level. This is part of the Illinois compiled statutes. It is state law, and we are required to pass this. And it's an issue that's at the state level, and really they should be hammering that out, yes or no. So, yeah, basically, we are required to adopt this. So, that's my comment. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments? We'll go to our clerk, Jean Savaria, for the vote.
Trustee Farina?
Yes.
Trustee Ogle?
Yes.
Trustee Petro?
Yes.
Trustee Trevarthen?
No.
Motion
That-
carried.
Thank you. And now we have one item, but I would call it two items from our Plan Commission, and we'll go to Trustee Petro for a report on those.
Thank you. So we have the Ash Street subdivision, multiple variances at 202 Ash Street, Lot 2 with a front yard setback and building material variance, and Lot 3, front yard setback and building material variances. Little history on the project. The applicants purchased the subject property from the original developer, O'Malley Builders, in November of 2018, with the intention of constructing 3 homes, which they would subsequently occupy as their personal residences. The applicants propose to construct homes that differ from those approved as a condition of the 3-lot subdivision approval and petition the village to grant variances to the changed approved homes. This was presented to the village board this evening, are the variance requests for 2 of the 3 lots on Ash Street, for for lots 2 and 3. The applicant requests approval of variances of building materials, to permit a non-masonry materials on the first floor, and a reduction of the required front yard setback from 30 feet to 15.5 feet. The applicants are working to revise their proposal for Lot 1 to comply with the lot coverage requirements for future consideration. At May 23rd, the Plan Commission meeting was held on the project, and the commissioners forwarded 4 unanimous recommendations to the village board to approve the front yard setback and building materials variances for lots 2 and 3 of the Ash Street subdivision. So tonight we have 4 motions in front of us. I'll go ahead with the first. Accept the Plan Commission recommendation, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance granting a building materials variance to permit the use of non-masonry materials in the construction of a single-family home on Lot 2 of the Ash Street subdivision in accordance with the reviewed plans and public testimony.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion by trustee Petro and a second by trustee Ogle. Any discussion on this issue? Any comments from anybody in the audience on this issue? Then we'll go to our clerk, Jean Savaria, for the vote.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Trustee Petro.
Yes.
Trustee Trevarthen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I make a motion that we accept the Plan Commission recommendation, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance granting a front yard setback variance from 30 to 15.5 feet to permit the construction of a single-family home on Lot 2 of the Ash Street subdivision in accordance with the reviewed plans and public testimony.
Do we get a second? Margaret, thank you. We have a motion by trustee Petro and a second by trustee Farina. Any discussion?
Can I
Yes,
ask
Dick.
a question? Lot 2, we're considering the one facing, the first lot is up by the, I don't know what's the name, the cross street there.
Utah.
Ash and Utah, is that considered Lot 1?
That would be Lot 1.
Lot 2 is right, okay.
In the middle,
okay,
and then
fine.
Lot 3 closest.
I didn't know what the pecking order was. Okay, go ahead. I'm fine.
Any other questions? Jean, we'll take your vote.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Trustee Petro.
Yes.
Trustee Trevarthen.
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes. Accept the Plan Commission recommendation, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance granting a building materials variance to permit the use of non-masonry materials in the construction of a single-family home on Lot 3 of the Ash Street subdivision in accordance with the reviewed plans and public testimony.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Petro and a second by trustee Farina. Any comments? Jean, the vote.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Trustee Petro.
Yes.
Trustee Trevarthen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Accept the Plan Commission recommendation, waive the first and second readings, and pass an ordinance granting a front yard setback variance from 30 to 15.5 feet to permit the construction of a single-family home on Lot 3 of the Ash Street subdivision in accordance with the reviewed plans and public testimony.
I'll second.
We have a motion by trustee Petro and a second by trustee Ogle. Any comments? We'll go to our clerk, Jean Savaria, for the vote.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Trustee Petro.
Yes.
Trustee Trevarthen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item on our agenda this evening is what we call the mayor's report. The first item on the mayor's report is the fishing derby. Well, it was fun. It says here a list is available at the board meeting. Folks, I didn't get one of the winners, but the winners are up there on the screen. Maybe that's how they're available. Believe it or not, let's see, it's Jonas there, caught 61 fish. Now, this is a 45-minute tournament. That means he caught more than one fish a minute out there in the Prairie Park Pond. It's just amazing. And the largest fish was 8 inches of the older kids and 7.5. Vivian Chalepas was a winner there. We had 2 winners, and Parker Santor, and it was certainly a fun time by everyone. A little chilly out this year, but it's a great event, one of those fun events for young people in our community. Non-home rule sales tax effective July 1st, 2019. Some of you may remember that last November, a non-home rule sales tax for the village of Frankfort was on the ballot. That will raise the sales tax in Frankfort from 7% to 8%. That money is being used, actually we're spending it already, on hiring some new police department people. And it's going to be used for some capital projects too, and road maintenance and such. Two very important items to our community. Our police chief has some great ideas how to use these new police, not just on the standard patrols, but they will be on directed patrols. We'll have our standard number of cars out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like we have now. But as we have issues that come up in our community, we will be able to take the directed units and have them target those crime areas and such. And so we think it's going to work just great. And two of those police are in training right now. They're down in Champaign, I think, at the police academy and learning how to be police. The retailers in the town have all been notified that they're to change their computers as of July 1st, and you will see that change, and our village is going to notice the change even sooner. So we're pleased with that. I know you have one directed patrol unit operating right now, so that's good to hear. State Capitol bill. There was some news last week that the village of Frankfort will be receiving $200,000 in the state's capital bill. $200,000 is directed towards building a parking lot in our downtown. Now, this comes to us, the way these things actually work is it'll probably be 5 or 6 months before we receive the official word from the state that we have this money. And they will tell us exactly what it's for and exactly how we go about getting it. We will get it after we build the parking lot or additional parking. It might come next year, it might come the year after, or this capital bill goes for a full 6 years. So it may not even be available to the village for 6 years from now. We just don't know. I was informed about it by our state senator for the northern half of Frankfort. That's Mike Hastings. He called me early last week to let me know that we were going to be getting that money. So we're appreciative of it, but it may take some time before we actually see anything happen with it. Weekly happenings in downtown Frankfort. We have lots of activity in the summer in downtown Frankfort. The cruise nights are every Thursday from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Fridays on the Green. If you've never been to a Fridays on the Green event, they take place at 10 o'clock on Friday at Breitert Green. They're sponsored by the Library District, and they're very suitable for probably 2 to 8-year-olds, maybe. And families come down there, and there are puppet shows, there are different kinds of activities that go on, and they really are fun events. The country market continues every Sunday from 9 to 2. It was just plain cold there yesterday, and it was still full of people and full of activity, and vendors were selling out of their food. Concerts on the Green started last night, and will continue until Fall Fest, right through the summer, every Sunday night at 6:30. The next band will be Backdated. That's a British and American classic rock, so that'll be a nice concert indeed. The annual Beautification Awards are due by June 30th. If you have a neighbor or you see a business in town or anyone that's gone to extra length to make our community look better, we want to recognize those people. If you can just call the village or stop by and let us know the address of the location or the name of the business, we will make sure that they get a certificate and a plaque. to be for that. Now, earlier this evening, we appointed a new village clerk in the village, and as I mentioned, the village clerk is a current member of our Plan Commission. We think that it is appropriate to look for a new Plan Commission members, and many of you know that recently we had applications for committees. And so we have some very fresh applications from people, but I think it's appropriate that we see if there are any other people who are interested in being on our Plan Commission. So starting today, we're interested in anybody who wants to apply to the Plan Commission, and I would think we could have this go till, the first week of July would be fine. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Sounds fine. Let's go to the first week of July, and if the trustees know of somebody who may be interested and would be a good plan commissioner, we'll ask them to apply, and we'll certainly look at the applications that we had this spring for committee appointments, and I know there were some people who expressed interest in the Plan Commission on those, and I've already noted their names and pulled out their applications. So that's how we'll handle that, and I'll, when there's a vacancy on the Plan Commission, once again, state law provides that the mayor appoints somebody to the vacancy, or can appoint somebody to the vacancy, with the advice and consent to the trustees, and I'll certainly seek their advice, and we'll get their consent. So that's where that will go. And that concludes the mayor's report, and with that, we'll go on to our police chief, John Barica, for the police department report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although our officers do a great job all the time, I'd like to mention a couple of our officers, Officer Bankus and Officer Civic, who did a great job at the assault on the trail. When that came out, due to their quick actions, they were able to have a suspect in custody within a few minutes of that happening. So I just want to say it was an outstanding job by them to get that information out and to be able to find that person, and they did have him arrested. And I'd like to let people know, too, that some questions came up about patrolling on the trail, and we do regular patrols on the trail. Twice a day, our officers will get out and either go on bikes, walk, or use the UTV within our jurisdiction. We are one of the only ones that do patrol the trail, but we do that on a daily basis. But we do rely on our people the people on the trail, if they see something suspicious, to give us a call. I'd also like to thank our seniors on patrol who were out this week and on the patrol. They patrol as a volunteer crew just to go out and see what's going on, and they report back to us. Usually there's an officer with them, but a great group of people, and we thank them for going out there. I think we have one out in the crowd here that was out there patrolling, so thanks to Larry. We do have our Call with a Cop coming up on Thursday, July 18th from 1 to 2:30 p.m., and that'll be at Colonel Sweettooth at 10 Elwood Street. So if people want to come out and meet some of the police officers, we will be out there. We'll have a police car for people if they want to see that, and we're there just to talk with them, and they can talk to us about anything they would like to. I'd like to also remind people to lock your cars, take your key fobs in. Unfortunately, last night in the early morning hours, Abbey Woods got hit with a few cars being rummaged through and one car that was stolen. The car did have it was in the garage, but they used a garage opener from an unlocked car. So again, it's always important, even if you don't have your keys or anything out there, to lock your cars. And make sure you take your keys out of them, even if they're in your garage. These crews continue to go around throughout the Chicagoland area, and we continue to put extra patrols out. As you talked about, our directed patrol, they've been out on these extra hours looking for these, but sometimes it's tough to figure out the exact spot where they're going to go. That area is an area they had not been in before. And then finally, congratulations to Gene Savaria on his appointment to the clerk's position. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. And now we go to Rob Pisha, our village administrator, for the village administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to congratulate Gene Savaria on being appointed as the clerk, a very important role within the village, and I've known Gene for a long time, and I know you'll do a great job for the position, and thank you for your willingness to serve the community. Also wanted to just provide an update on the sale of 711 North White Street. The applicant had recently made some requests that required some substantial changes to the approved sales contract. This was discussed at a public meeting last Wednesday. Per our legal opinion, any substantive changes would have required the process of the sale of the property to begin anew. As such, the applicant has since requested his earnest money to be returned. And then finally, not to be a broken record, but St. Francis Road is still slated to be worked on this year. There have been substantial weather delays. Right now, it's the contractor who has been delayed on other projects, and he has to prioritize, so they're kind of waiting for him to come back onto this project. They do believe that they will get it done this construction season. I'll wait to see if that actually occurs. But just to remind people that the road should be closed in another 2 to 3 weeks, but there will be a message board that goes up in advance to let everybody know when it's actually going to be closed. But it will be down to a one-lane signalized intersection. And that's the end of my report.
The road will be open, it'll just be one way.
Correct.
Well, it'll be both ways, but there's a traffic light.
Single lane at a
Yeah.
time, right?
Okay, perfect. And now for the village attorney's report, we go to our village attorneys, George Mahoney and Hannah Lamore.
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Well, thank you, Hannah. And that brings us to the time of our meeting that we call Other Business. And this evening, we'll start with Trustee Ogle.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to congratulate Jean Savaria on your appointment to the clerk's position. Jean, you do a great job there. Want to wish a very happy birthday to Kristen Ogle. Our 24th birthday is today. Real quick on the trail, I want to thank the Frankfort police who were very quick on getting on that and apprehending a suspect, and even in the questioning, finding out a little more about this, that we want to be very careful. Fortunately, the victim was carrying a cell phone, so she was able to call this in. When you're out on the trail, especially in some areas where it's isolated, please try to run with friends. Use your good sense for personal safety. Bring a cell phone with you if you can, and try to avoid going out at times that might be very isolated or that should be in other places. Bring a buddy, and there's certainly running clubs out here that you could be part of that are of all different calibers and abilities. So be safe out there. That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And Trustee Farina.
Thank you, Mayor Holland. Congratulations, Jean, on your appointment to village clerk. We've had the pleasure of working together on the Planning Commission. Now it's different nights, but the same effort to serve the residents of Frankfort and so forth. And I know you've been with the community for a long time and will do a great job and be well committed. So I'm excited for that opportunity to work with you again. I did want to just acknowledge one thing. I had a request from a resident to share about an opportunity to recycle your electronics, TVs and such. That's something that New Way doesn't pick up. You can recycle your electronics from 5 to 7 on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. Will County Green brings a truck to the Frankfort Township parking lot right on Route 30. You pull your car up alongside boxes next to their truck, and 2 people remove your electronics into their boxes. It takes less than a few minutes. So if you have any electronics, think about that for an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Trustee Trevarthen.
Well, I'd like to congratulate our new clerk. Welcome aboard. I'm sure you do a fine job for us. Thanks very much for joining us. Second one is, before the Operations Committee meeting, we had our Department of Operations of Utility Department give us a report out on the central regional sewage treatment plant, if anybody's interested. And I just thought I'd bring it up. I was going to bring it up earlier. It is fully operating now, and they have a punch list of little things they're finishing up, but I want people to know that the plant is fully operating now. So that was my other comment. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dick. Trustee Petro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder that the Frankfort Park District is hosting the annual short run on a long day this week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you're still interested in participating, online registration is still open till 2 p.m. tomorrow. And if not, come out and support everyone running through Frankfort. And thank you in advance to the police and the Public Works for helping with the road closures and keeping everyone safe. And Jean, congratulations. Excited to be working with you. I know you'll do a great job.
Good comments, Jessica, especially about the race. That's a very popular race, you know. A lot of people want to take part in that. Don't forget it. And we'll go to our new clerk, Gene Savaria.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the village board for the support and the appointment. I'm excited to participate and look forward to working with all of you.
Welcome aboard, Gene.
Thank you.
That brings us to the part of our meeting we call public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to make a comment to the village board tonight? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.